On Tuesday this week, something very unexpected happened, and it happened so suddenly that it caught so many Kenyans unawares. Yeah. I'm of course talking about the very sudden Mpesa downtime that left so many Kenyans frustrated. I'm sure most of us have heard about all those horror stories. Kenyans getting stuck at fuel stations. You've just refueled your vehicle. You're preparing to pay. Mpesa is not there. It's not working. Or those Kenyans who are treating themselves to a hearty meal. You've just had kuku and ugali, and you're very satisfied with yourself, and you're preparing to pay to leave the restaurant. Mpesa is not there. Not to mention the desperate parents preparing their children to go back to school. I'm sure you've heard all those stories. But folks, there is a political story here. A huge political story. And that is what my show today is going to focus on. Now, let us start by agreeing that you cannot be a company as large as Safaricom, and indeed as important as Safaricom, because M-Pesa is now a national security issue. I mean, M-Pesa failing is not an option. Bottom line, there is no way Safaricom and M-Pesa can avoid Kenyan politics. Let us face that reality. But in order to convince you that there's a very huge story here, a political story, let me ask you a very simple question. In your opinion, do you think the way Safaricom responded to what happened on Tuesday was normal? Is that how they usually respond? Just answer those simple questions. Actually, I was shocked. To this minute, 2-3 days later, Safaricom have still said nothing. There is still no explanation as to what exactly happened on Tuesday. And this gets even more intriguing, in case you didn't know, because there are issues here of regulatory investigations by the Communications Authority of Kenya. You know, in 2017, the Communications Authority of Kenya fined Safaricom 270 million Kenya shillings for failing to meet the set standards on call quality, the quality of calls you make on the Safaricom line. In fact, by law, the CA, Communications Authority, can fine a company up to 0.2% of its gross revenue for things like what happened on Tuesday. So already there's that danger. But in my opinion, nothing will happen. I will come back to that shortly and explain why I believe nothing will happen to Safaricom. There are also the companies that rely on M-Pesa for their revenue. So there are issues of lost revenue here. And therefore one cannot rule out the possibility that some companies will sue. And that is why it is all the more puzzling. It is just mind-blowing that Safaricom have still said nothing. In my opinion, there is a very good reason. And that good reason has something to do with a very consistent behavior of the Ruto administration. I mean, it is so consistent, it is like clockwork. And it has affected so many other organizations right across the country. And to be clear, it is not the fault of the organizations. Prepare yourself to be shocked. But first, please allow me a minute or two to acknowledge today's sponsors. And today's sponsors are the Kumekucha channel sponsorship segment. Now, sponsoring a Kumekucha video plays a key role in supporting the work I do here for a better Kenya. However, it is also true that those who have sponsored shows here have received amazing results. Some of our subscribers here have sold property worth double-digit millions very successfully, simply by sponsoring a show. Many others have also been very happy with the results, shortly after informing people about the products and services they deal with, proving that we have a very unique captive audience on this channel, and an audience that is very loyal. And I have to say once again, asanteni sana. I'm so grateful and I'm so humbled. And that's why it would make perfect sense for you to take full advantage of our current offer for sponsoring a video on this channel, where you can now do it for only 12k. I believe you can see details on your screens right now, which in terms of dollars is a pittance. Although this offer is expiring very soon, I believe we only have 36 hours or so remaining. So I'd urge you to take full advantage within this very short period of time. Jump into this window of opportunity, especially if you still have a few doubts as to just how effective it can be, even as you support the work we do here. Okay? Now, government interference in organizations countrywide. You will remember the comical drama that emerged when the KCPE results were released. Students getting results for subjects they never sat for, etc., etc. I believe that whole fiasco is still fresh on the minds of Kenyans. But now the very latest is that the recently released KCSE results also had many issues. You get your results as usual online, and then a few minutes later your A- miraculously, magically turns into a B-. Same student, same index number, same everything, but then now your results have changed. Now I'm sure many of us remember that with the KCPE results, we were told that the issue was greed. There were cartels well connected to the government individuals who came rushing in, trying to cash in on the exams because of the money involved. You will remember that even the usual printers in the UK lost the contract because they refused to bribe certain government officials. I'm sure you heard that story. And in the end, even the company that was awarded the contract to print the exams subcontracted the job. It was printed in India or something like that. And the security arrangements for that, because this is an exam and people steal exams, were dodgy, fishy, unclear. Okay? The pattern within the Ruto government is that any organization where there's money, any organization where there's a chance to make a huge overnight profit from nowhere, you will see government interference, or interference by people well connected with the government. There is also a lot of bullying by government against private organizations. Remember our story here. It is the Mpesa issues of last Tuesday And when you look at all that has been happening in our dear country, and you examine more closely what happened last Tuesday over this very strange Mpesa failure for a few hours, one cannot help but to try to link the two. The behavior of this government towards organizations and even private entities and companies, and what happened, and what has been happening, especially with exams. You know, when there's government interference, those experts, those people with experience, who have been running this thing for a long time, are normally given orders. Sometimes they're told to step aside. And even any warnings they may give of possible consequences of this move are usually ignored. A great example is the KCPE exams chaos, which affects the future of innocent Kenyan children. How serious can an issue be? And if we dig just a little bit deeper into this Mpesa manenos, there are a few things that have been happening in recent times that have raised eyebrows. For example, why were there so many major changes on the Safaricom board shortly after Ruto took over as president? Why? Was it a coincidence? One of the things that happened is that the board chairman, John Ngumi, resigned after only 5 months as board chairman. Is that normal? Bwana John Ngumi is a man with strong links to the 4th president of Kenya, President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. But even more super fascinating was the new board chairman and who he has strong links with. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. And that was not all. Michael Joseph, the founding CEO of Safaricom, also suddenly resigned from the board. Of course, he assured everybody that it was his personal decision. He tried very hard to convince us that he just woke up one morning and decided to resign from the Safaricom board. Please allow me a super fascinating aside here. I strongly believe that decades from now, business school students will still be studying the story of super entrepreneur Michael Joseph. This great Kenyan, yes, you heard me right, is now Kenyan, arrived in the country for the first time in the year 2000 with just a small briefcase and 5 Vodafone employees. And when he asked to be shown the Safaricom offices, he was shown a small store in a building. True story, my friends. And had to relocate temporarily to operate in some apartments at Norfolk Towers. That is how Safaricom started. And he hit the ground running, competing against Airtel, which was already then very well established. Not many Kenyans know that Michael Joseph was once in a very serious situation where he could easily have lost his job. You see, this is an ideas man, big ideas. And his Simu ya Jamii idea somehow did not work. In fact, it was so terrible that Safaricom lost a lot of money. But he pushed on to his next idea, Mpesa, which was a big winner. At that time in Kenyan history, buses from Mombasa to Nairobi were being hijacked a lot. Yeah, you know, traders were traveling overnight to Nairobi to buy products to return with to sell in Mombasa. And thugs were hijacking these buses. And so a small pilot project was started, whereby you put the money on your phone, travel to Nairobi without any cash on you. So even if you're hijacked, there's no problem, because the money is in your SIM card. Even if your phone is stolen, you can replace the SIM card at the phone. And on arrival in Nairobi, you just go to a Safaricom shop and withdraw your cash. That's how Mpesa started. And the rest is history. Bottom line, Safaricom is Michael Joseph, and Michael Joseph is Safaricom. Back to our Mpesa mystery story. In my opinion, it is never a good idea for a government to start getting so involved with organizations and enterprises to the extent where the executive wants to micromanage certain aspects in businesses in a democratic country. We're not a socialist state where that tends to be normal. It is not a good move. And quite often, the consequences can be dire and negative. It is not the way to go if you want to build an economy, if you want to create employment. That is definitely not the way to go. And it is good to remind ourselves that even during the campaign period, UDA were talking about Safaricom. It's like they were salivating about Safaricom. Not the right direction for any government to take. And in the absence of information and solid facts, rumors, of course, will rule the day. And one rumor that has been persisting on social media, that actually what caused the huge problem that inconvenienced so many Kenyans was government interference, of insisting, of using kifua and insisting to have their way, possibly to link Mpesa directly to some KRA system, Kenya Revenue Authority. Because when you're dealing with the public, perception may be even more important than the facts on the ground. And therefore such rumors, even when there's no evidence, even when there's no proof, can quickly gain traction with dire consequences across the board. I mean, it should be very simple, clear logic. Why would you want to interfere with an organization that is so important to Kenyans? So many Kenyans rely on this company for their livelihoods. So many Kenyans have no other way of putting food on the table except through the businesses they do, courtesy of this huge Kenyan company. And so, although what really happened on Tuesday will remain a mystery for some time, there is a lot of consolation in the fact that we're in the year 2024, the year of exposure. And therefore we can be very hopeful that it will not take too long for Kenyans to discover what really happened last Tuesday. Now, many of you are very interested in my classic 2013 ebook, Mystery Monday, because it has information never before released to this day about Raila Odinga and the Luo question. And of course this was linked to the 2013 presidential elections, which was the beginning of our serious problems in Kenya. Now looking back, we can see that very clearly. You can see details on your screens right now. For only $9.60, you can get yourself this ebook, amazing ebook. And what is more, you will be able to win 1 full year subscription to my weekly intelligence briefings when you purchase Mystery Monday. Go for it. I highly recommend it. You have been seeing the details on your screens. Therefore you know what you have to do. The same details are repeated in the description area below this video on YouTube. Until next time, this is Chris. Kumekucha.